Welcome to ALPHORES e-learning. Now, in this session, we will discuss here the process of implantation. Here, we have in the previous class discussed about this zygote which is formed. The fertilization takes place in the ampulla. Now, after fertilization, unequal division has taken place, which resulted in 2 cells, then 4, then 8, 16. Now, these cells which has undergone division. Now, this is blastomeres, these cells are called as, and still there is zona pellucida layer is surrounding it. Now, when it reaches the 8 to 16 cell stage, this is called as morula, appears as mulberry fruit. Now, it consists of, there is cells which are present inner, these are cells which are compactly arranged, this is compactly arranged, and this is outer cells, these are also compactly arranged. Now, what we call it as compactation takes place, the cells are finely attached to each other, this is called as compactation. Now, outer cells, they are flat. Now, these outer cells are flat and connected by tight junctions, whereas inner cells are connected by the gap junctions in order to flow freely the nutrients. Now, a small cavity occurs in the morula, a small cavity occurs in the morula. Now, this cavity enlarges in size, now this is, and some of the cells which are inside, they are attached to one side. Now, these are the flat cells which are there outside, ball like, outside cells are flat, and inside this cavity has appeared. Now, some of the cells, they get attached to the one of the sides towards this is outside. Now, these cells which are there inside, this is called as inner cell mass, inner cell mass. Now, whereas these outer cells which are forming flat cells, we have changed the name. Now, names will be changed according to the changes occur inside. Now, these cells are called as trophectoderm. We call this as trophectoderm or trophoblast. Trophoblast or trophectoderm or outer cell mass. They are called as trophoblast because these are the cells which derive nourishment from the uterine endometrium. Now, this stage having blastocele, having this is blastocele, the cavity inside, this is inner cell mass. Now, this is a surrounding cell mass, this is a trophoblast. Trophoblast with inner cell mass and blastocele. Blastocele is considered as primary body cavity. Now, this appears as a cyst and called as blastocyst. The morula has changed into the next stage, blastocyst. How it has changed to blastocyst? There is cavity occurs. This cavity will be filled with fluid, results in a large cavity called as blastocele. The cells inside has pushed to one side. This is inner cell mass. Now, outer cell mass, this is outer cell mass. It becomes trophoblast, which derive nourishment. Now, this stage is called as blastocyst. Now, this blastocyst is still covered with what is the structure? Zona pellucida. Corona radiata was soon disappeared after fertilization. Now, this is the zona pellucida. Now, this blastocyst reaches into the uterine cavity. Now, when it reaches on the uterine cavity, this zona pellucida, it get digested by protein called as trypsin. It get digested by the protein called as trypsin, and then it produces a small finger-like structures, what we call them as villi, and get attached to the uterine endometrium. This is called as implantation. Implantation is the process by which the blastocyst get attached to the uterine endometrium. Before it get attached, the zona pellucida get dissolved or disappeared. How? By the action of a proteolytic enzyme called as trypsin, it get digested. Now, when it reaches in the uterine cavity, this occur, the digestion of zona pellucida. Now, zona pellucida is a protective layer here until implantation, because if this zona pellucida is absent, now it may fall on this fallopian tube and it may develop here. This is called as ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic pregnancy. Ectopic means outside the uterus. If pregnancy occur outside the uterus, pregnancy has to occur. This is on the uterine wall. If it occur in the tube, when it occur in the tube, when this zona pellucida layer is dissolved in the fallopian tube, it may fall on the tube. It results in tubal pregnancy. Tubal pregnancies, they won't stand here. It means abortion will take place. Now, hence, to ensure the implantation at perfect uterine wall, this zona pellucida dissolve only when it comes into the uterine wall. After the formation of blastocyst, it get digested. This is called as hatching. Hatching out. Blastocyst hatching out from this structure, what we are saying? Zona pellucida. From the zona pellucida, this is the zona pellucida. From this zona pellucida, this blastocyst is hatching out, coming out by breaking the zona pellucida and get attached to the uterine endometrium. This uterine endometrium is well prepared for this purpose, implantation. The intimate attachment of blastocyst with uterine endometrium is called as implantation. Okay. Now, this produces here villi like outgrowth, and now it appears a special structure. Now, what is that structure? It is having cytotrophoblast as well as syncytiotrophoblast. Trophine means food. Wherever you come across the word trophine means food. It derives food, that is nutrients, from the uterine wall. Hence, we are saying these are the trophoblastic cells which invade the uterine endometrium, absorbing the nutrients from the uterine wall or uterus. Now, then how it looks like, this blastocyst, how it looks like. Now, this is how it looks like, that is, if you observe, now we will take this out. Now, this is the uterine endometrium. This is the uterine endometrium. Okay. Now, this is how it invades. It invades. This is how it invades. This is it produces. This is the blastocyst. Now, these are the syncytiotrophoblast. This is a cytotrophoblast. Now, there is inner cell mass here. There is inner cell mass. Now, if we take this out and place it here, how it appears? Now, here is, this is the cytotrophoblast. Now, we observe this is the cytotrophoblast. This is the cytotrophoblast. Outer layer, this is of flat, actually this is a cuboidal cells. For our convenience, we are drawing like this. Now, here these are the cells at this region where it falls on the uterine endometrium. Now, where actually it falls in the uterine endometrium means always towards the inner cell mass. Now, here there is inner cell mass. Now, these are the inner cell mass. This is the inner cell mass. Now, this is many nuclei. Now, what happened here is, when it falls on the uterine endometrium, now towards where this is towards inner cell mass. Now, the cells here, these cells, they all fuse together to form their nuclei. Syncytium means what? Multinucleate condition. Now, this is the syncytiotrophoblast. whereas this one is cytotrophoblast. Now this is inner cell mass. Now here this area, this is the area. Now this is the area, what we call this as uterine endometrium. This is a uterine endometrium with blood vessels. This is uterine endometrium with blood vessels. Now it has fallen onto the uterine endometrium, and where it is fallen towards the inner cell mass, it has produced finger-like structures. What we call them as syncytiotrophoblast, villi with many nucleus. Now these are multinucleate condition is a syncytium, syncytiotrophoblast. Now this is still, there are cytotrophoblast, this is, and this is inner cell mass. Now inner cell mass also called as here the formative cells, or otherwise embryo proper. Now this is inner cell mass, or otherwise other names which are given, embryo proper, or formative cells. We are actually changing the names as the development goes on. We will be changing the names according to the development. Now this trophoblast, first it has, now we have changed the names, syncytiotrophoblast, cytotrophoblast. Now this is inner cell mass. The inner cell mass changed to embryo proper or formative cells, because these are the cells which actually gives rise to all or entire structures of the embryo. The entire embryo is formed from this inner cell mass. Now hence we are saying this is embryo proper or formative cells, now which get attached to the uterine endometrium, and then it enters into it. It means the uterine endometrium covers the entire structure. The entire, what is this structure? Blastocyst is covered by this uterine endometrium. It means it get embedded inside the uterine endometrium. Now then how it looks like? This is how it looks like after this is implantation. The uterine wall is called as a decidua after implantation. Now here this is the uterine wall, for suppose this is the uterine wall. We have enlarged the uterine wall. Now this one is what we are saying. This is a syncytio and this is a cytotrophoblast. Now this is entire, it has entered inside. It has entered inside. Which one entered inside? What is this structure is called as? This structure is what we are saying. Blastocyst has entered inside the uterine endometrium. This is, now this is a lumen of the uterine endometrium. This is the what we are saying. This is the uterine wall. This is the cervix. Now this is lumen of the uterine wall. This is lumen of the uterus. Now what is this structure? Blastocyst has embedded inside, and then this uterus is what we call it as after implantation. After implantation, the uterus is called as decidua. Decidua. What is decidua? Decidua is nothing but uterus. Uterus is called as decidua after implantation. Name has changed. We have changed the name also of the uterus. Now here this is entered. Here this is what we are saying. This is lumen. This is now the part of the decidua which is attached here. This is called as decidua basalis. It means where it get entered and attached inside this area of the uterine wall. This is called as decidua basalis. Decidua basalis. Then the part of the decidua towards lumen, this is called as decidua capsularis. This area is called as decidua capsularis. Now this part here, this part towards the parietal area. Now this is called as decidua parietalis. Decidua parietalis. After implantation, the uterus wall is called as decidua. This decidua is differentiated into three parts. What are those? Now, where the implantation has taken place, this part is called as decidua basalis. Now, the part of the decidua which is towards lumen, this part is called as decidua capsularis. Now, the part of the decidua which is towards the sides, adjacent sides, this is called as decidua parietalis. What is actually decidua? Uterine endometrium is called as a decidua because it is providing nourishment to the developing what we call it as embryo. Up to 8 weeks of development it is called as embryo. After 8 weeks it is called as fetus. From the 9th month onwards it is called as fetus. Okay. Now, this structure, if you observe, what are the changes we observe in this structure? Now, what we observe the changes is the inner cell mass. The inner cell mass, these cells, they are arranged in such a way that they form an upper layer of cell, lower layer of cells. There is an upper layer of cells, lower layer of cells. Now, this is 2 layers the cells are arranged. Now, with the help of a neat diagram, we will show here how it appears. This is. Now, this is the tall upper cells, this is a tall upper cells, columnar, then lower cells, these are cuboidal, lower cells are cuboidal, upper cells are tall, lower cells are cuboidal. Now, there is this structure, it is here, this is what we are saying syncytial trophoblast. Now, this structure is what we are saying cytotrophoblast. This is cytotrophoblast. This is cytotrophoblast. This is syncytiotrophoblast. Having it is connected to the uterine endometrium. This is cytotrophoblast. This is syncytiotrophoblast. Now, these cells, upper layer of cells, these are called as epiblast cells. Epiblast cells. The inner cell mass which we are saying, they are arranged in 2 layers. Upper cells which are columnar tall cells called as epiblast cells. The lower cells are called as hypoblast cells. Hypoblast. Hypoblast cells is considered as embryonic endoderm. Now, epiblast cells which are there, now this is that part of the blastocyst which actually give rise to all the structures of the embryo. The 3 germ layers, ectoderm, mesoderm, endoderm, all the 3, they come from this epiblast cells. Whereas hypoblast, this is cuboidal cells which are present towards the blastocele. Now, it forms here endoderm of the embryo. Embryonic, this is embryonic endoderm, not our own, this is adult endoderm. Now, these cells, they undergo delamination, next step. Now, this embryo of the development is what we call it as bilaminar embryo. What embryo this is? Bilaminar. Bilaminar. Bi means 2, lamina means layers, 2 layered. What are the 2 layers? Epiblast, this is upper layer, hypoblast, this is lower layer. These 2 layers are present, hence this embryo is called as bilaminar embryo. Now, this bilaminar embryo undergoes changes. What are the changes which it undergoes? It undergoes gastrulation, then it forms another structure, trilaminar embryo. Now, that what we will be discussing in the next class. Okay. Now, this is the bilaminar embryo with epiblast and hypoblast is formed. Now, such structure we are saying this is a bilaminar embryo is formed. Now, the syncytiotrophoblast is getting nourishment from the uterine endometrium and changes occur in this region. Yolk sac formation along with extra embryonic membranes and the entire embryo develops from this epiblast. Okay. Now, thank you.